Jai-Ho opened his eyes slowly as the morning sun peeked through the large windows of his hover hotel room. The bed adjusted its softness automatically, helping him wake up gently. 50 floors above the ground, he had a perfect view of Manila Bay. The water sparkled in the early light, much cleaner now than it had been 100 years ago. "Good morning, Jai-Ho," said a soft voice. It was Newell, his AI assistant. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I expected," Jai-Ho replied, touching the small silver disc behind his ear. This neural implant helped his body adjust to Earth's gravity. Being born in space meant Earth felt very heavy to him. He walked to the window and looked down. Flying cars moved quietly between buildings, and people walked on the clean streets below. The year was 2157, and Earth had become a special place for people to visit. Most humans now lived in space stations or on other planets, making Earth feel like an ancient, magical place. Jai-Ho watched as his body readings appeared in the air before him. The blue hologram showing his heart rate, oxygen levels, and how well he was adjusting to Earth's gravity. Newell had been monitoring these all night. "Your body is adapting well to Earth's atmosphere," Newell said. "Much better than yesterday. Would you like to hear today's schedule?" Jai-Ho nodded, walking to the food printer in his room. He pressed a button, and it made him a perfect copy of a traditional Filipino breakfast: garlic rice, dried fish, and eggs. The smell filled the room, making his stomach growl. "Today we will visit several old places in Manila," Newell explained. "Our scans show they might have things left by space visitors from long ago. Your first meeting is with Sun Lee at 9 o'clock. She's a tour guide who knows a lot about old artifacts." Jai-Ho sat down to eat, enjoying the taste of real food. In space, most food was made by machines and didn't taste this good. As he ate, he looked at pictures floating in the air, maps of Manila, old buildings, and strange energy readings that his tools had picked up. "Did you know that Manila is one of the oldest cities on Earth?" Newell asked. "People have lived here for thousands of years. Our scans show some very old technology hidden in the city's oldest parts. Technology that shouldn't have been on Earth at that time." Jai-Ho finished his breakfast and walked to the bathroom. The mirror showed him both his reflection and important information about the day. The weather, warm and sunny, the air quality, very good, and the best times to visit each place on their list. He put on his light blue research uniform, which would keep him cool in Manila's warm weather. The uniform had small sensors all over it, ready to detect any unusual energy or signals they might find. In his pocket, he put his main research tool, a small crystal that could scan buildings and objects for signs of ancient space technology. "Sun Mai sent a message," Newell said. "She's found something interesting in the Binondo market. She thinks it might be what we're looking for." Jai-Ho smiled. His first real day of research on Earth was about to begin. After years of studying old Earth artifacts in space museums, he was finally here, ready to look for proof that space travelers had visited Earth long ago. He checked his neural implant one last time, grabbed his bag, and headed for the door. The morning air of Manila waited for him, full of mystery and promise. The streets of Binondo were busy with morning shoppers. Jai-Ho followed Sun Mai through the crowd, amazed by all the sounds and smells. Sun Mai was shorter than him, wearing a yellow sundress with comfortable walking shoes. Her black hair was tied back neatly, and she carried a bag full of scanning equipment. "The market is just ahead," Sun Mai said, pointing to an old building. "People have been selling things here for hundreds of years. Some families have kept the same shops for many generations." Jai-Ho's neural implant buzzed softly. Newell was detecting something unusual. "There are strange energy readings coming from inside the market," the AI said in Jai-Ho's ear. "They match the pattern we found in the old records." They walked into the market through big wooden doors. Inside, it was cooler and darker than the street. Hundreds of small shops lined the narrow paths. People were selling everything from fresh fruit to old trinkets. The air smelled of spices and incense. "This way," Sun Mai said, leading him to a small shop in the corner. An old woman sat behind a table covered with beautiful handicrafts. There were wooden carvings, woven bracelets, and small metal charms that looked very old. Jaiho's scanner crystal grew warm in his pocket. He took it out carefully. The crystal glowed with a soft blue light when he held it near the table. Sun Mai spoke quietly to the old woman in Filipino, asking about the charms. "She says these have been in her family for more than 200 years. Sun Mai translated. "People buy them for good luck. Sometimes," she says, "they glow at night." Jaiho picked up one of the charms. It looked like a simple metal disc with strange patterns carved on it. But when he held it under his scanner, he saw something amazing. A hologram appeared above the charm, showing star maps and writing in a language he had never seen before. "Look at this," he whispered to Sun Mai. Through his neural implant, he could share what he was seeing. Sun Mai's eyes widened as she saw the hologram. "Excuse me," a soft voice said behind them. They turned to see a woman in a white dress standing there. She had long black hair and kind eyes. "I'm Du Yan. I couldn't help but notice what you found." Jaiho carefully put the charm down. His implant was telling him that Du Yan had similar scanning equipment to his. She wasn't just another tourist. "These aren't just lucky charms," Du Yan said quietly. "They're pieces of something bigger. Look at the patterns." She pointed to different charms on the table. "When you put them together in the right way, they make a map." Sun Mi talked to the old woman again, this time asking about the history of the charms. The old woman smiled and pulled out a box from under the table. Inside were more charms, each one giving off a faint energy that Jaiho's scanner could detect. "She says we can look at all of them," Sun Mai said. "She's been waiting for someone who could see their true nature." Jaiho, Sun Mai, and Du Yan spent the next hour carefully examining each charm. The holograms they showed were amazing. Pictures of stars, ancient buildings, and strange machines. Whatever these charms were, they were much more than simple jewelry. They were pieces of a puzzle that had waited hundreds of years to be solved. "We should take these somewhere quiet," Du Yan suggested. "Somewhere we can study them properly." Jaiho nodded. He had a feeling their peaceful morning of shopping had just turned into something much more interesting. The old walls of Intramura stood tall in the afternoon sun. Jaiho walked along the wide stone paths with Sun Mai and Du Yan, carrying the box of charms they had bought from the market. The ancient city within walls was much cooler than the busy streets of Manila outside. "People built these walls 400 years ago," Sun Mai explained, touching the old stones. "The Spanish made them to protect the city, but our scans show that some parts of the walls are much older than that." Jaiho's scanner crystal pulsed with a gentle blue light as they walked. Hainul was processing all the data they collected, showing the results as soft blue holograms in front of Jaiho's eyes. "There are energy patterns here that match the charms," Hainul said in Jaiho's ear. "They're coming from under the ground." Du Yan looked at her own scanner and nodded. "The strongest signals are coming from San Agustin Church," she said. "It's the oldest stone church in the Philippines." They walked to the church, their feet making quiet sounds on the old stones. The building was beautiful, with tall white walls and detailed carvings. Inside, it was cool and quiet. The afternoon light came through high windows, making colorful patterns on the floor. "Look at this," Sun Mai whispered, pointing to marks on the wall. To most people, they looked like simple decorations, but through Jaiho's scanner, they glowed with the same energy as the charms. "These marks tell a story," Du Yan said, running her hand over the wall. "According to old records, strange lights used to appear above this church at night. People thought they were angels." Jaiho took out one of the charms and held it near the wall. Suddenly, both the charm and the wall marks began to glow with a soft light that everyone could see, not just through the scanners. The light made shapes in the air, stars, planets, and what looked like old spaceships. Amazing, Sun Mei breathed. The stories about lights in the sky weren't just stories. Hanul spoke up. I'm detecting a hidden space under the floor, the AI said. There's a room down there that doesn't show up in any of the church's building plans. They looked around the empty church. The afternoon was getting late, and the last tourists were leaving. Sun Mai spoke with an old caretaker who smiled and nodded at them. He says we can stay a bit longer, she told Jaiho and Du Yin. He also said something interesting. His grandfather used to tell him about hidden tunnels under the church, places where they kept special treasures. Jaiho walked carefully around the church floor, following the signal from his scanner. The crystal grew warmer as he moved toward the altar. There, partly hidden by an old carpet, he found something that made his heart beat faster. A metal circle in the floor, covered with the same strange patterns as the charms. I think we found it, he said quietly. The entrance to whatever's down there. Do Yun and Sun Mi joined him by the altar. The three of them stood looking at the metal circle, wondering what secrets it might hide. The quiet church seemed to hold its breath with them. Should we try to open it? Sun Mi asked. Before anyone could answer, the charms in the box began to glow brighter, and the metal circle in the floor started to make a soft humming sound. The next morning found Jaiho, Sun Mi, and Du Yun sitting in a small cafe in Vigan City. They had traveled north after their discovery in the church. The cafe was in an old Spanish house with thick wooden beams and large windows. The morning light made patterns on their table through the cafe's shell windows. We couldn't open that metal circle in the church floor, Jaiho said, stirring his coffee. But the readings we got were very clear. There's something big down there. Do Yun had been quiet all morning, looking at data on her handheld screen. Now she put it down and looked at them seriously. I need to tell you something, she said. I haven't been completely honest about who I am. Sun Mei and Jiho stopped eating their breakfast and listened. Even Hainul, Jaiho's AI, went quiet. I work for the Earth Heritage Foundation, Du Yun explained. We're a group that studies connections between ancient Earth cultures and early space visitors. We've been watching the energy signals in the Philippines for years. She pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. It projected a large map of the Philippines into the air above their cups. Different spots on the map glowed with soft lights. Each of these points is a place where we found old technology, she said. The church in Intramuros, the market in Binondo, and many others. But the strongest signal comes from here. She pointed to a group of hills on one of the islands. The Chocolate Hills in Bohol, Sun Mai said, recognizing the shape. But those are natural formations, aren't they? Do Yun smiled. That's what everyone thinks. But look at this. She took out the charms they had bought and arranged them in a circle on the table. When she put the last one in place, they all began to glow. A new hologram appeared above the charms. It showed the same hills, but with strange lines connecting them, making a pattern that looked like a star map. These aren't just random hills, Du Yen said. They're built in a pattern that matches the positions of certain stars. Stars that were important to ancient space travelers. Jaiho's neural implant buzzed as Hainul processed this information. The AI archives in space mention similar patterns on other worlds, Hainul said. Places where early space travelers left messages for future generations. So the Chocolate Hills could be some kind of message? Sun Mai asked, leaning forward to look at the hologram more closely. We think they're more than that, Du Yen said. We think they're protecting something. Something the travelers left behind. That's why I've been following you, Jaiho. Your space archaeology background makes you perfect for this mission. Jaiho sat back in his chair, thinking. He had come to Earth hoping to find traces of ancient space visitors. Now it seemed he had found something much bigger than he expected. The church floor, the market charms, they're all connected to the hills, he asked. Du Yun nodded. They're like keys, she said, parts of a map leading to whatever is hidden in Baal. But we need to be careful. If we're right about what's there, it could change everything we know about Earth's history. The morning sun grew warmer as they sat in the old cafe, looking at the glowing holograms and thinking about what might be waiting for them in the chocolate hills. The morning sun sparkled on the ocean as Jai-Ho looked out the window of the hover transport. They were flying south from Manila to Bohol Island. Below them, the blue water was dotted with traditional fishing boats and modern water skimmers. "Your body is still adjusting well to Earth," Newell said in his ear. "But the humidity in Bohol will be higher than in Manila. I'll adjust your suit's settings to keep you comfortable." Sun Ma sat next to him, looking at old maps on her tablet. Du Yun was in the seat behind them, talking quietly with her Earth Heritage Foundation team through her communications device. "We'll land at Tagbilaran City," Sun Ma said, pointing to a spot on her map. "Then we'll take a traditional boat to the Chocolate Hills. The locals say the old ways are still the best for approaching the hills." The hover transport began to descend. Jai-Ho could see the island coming closer. It was covered in green trees, with beautiful beaches along its edges. His scanner crystal was already picking up strange energy readings. They landed smoothly at the small airport. The air was warm and sweet-smelling when they stepped out. Palm trees swayed in the breeze, and Jai-Ho could hear birds singing in the distance. "The boat is waiting," Du Yun said, leading them to a small dock. An old wooden boat floated gently on the water. It had been modified with quiet electric motors, but still looked like the boats that had sailed these waters for hundreds of years. As they climbed aboard, Jai-Ho's neural implant began picking up more signals. The charms in his bag were getting warmer. Newell displayed the readings as soft blue lines in the air around him. "The energy patterns are getting stronger," Newell said. "They seem to be coming from the direction of the hills." The boat moved smoothly through the water. Sun Ma told them stories about the islands they passed. She talked about old legends of lights in the sky and strange visitors who came from the stars. Now those stories didn't sound like just legends anymore. "Look," Du Yun said suddenly, pointing ahead. The chocolate hills were coming into view. Hundreds of round hills rose from the green land, each one almost exactly the same shape and size. They looked like giant brown drops of chocolate against the blue sky. Jai-Ho's scanner crystal was glowing brightly now. He held it up, and it projected a hologram that matched the shape of the hills perfectly. The charms they had collected began to shine in their bag. "The hills are arranged in a pattern," Newell said, showing Jai-Ho a star map overlay. "Each hill matches the position of a star in an ancient space trading route." The boat captain, an old man with kind eyes, watched them with interest. Sun Ma spoke with him in Filipino, then turned to Jai-Ho and Du Yun. "He says his family has lived here for generations," she translated. "They've always known the hills were special. At night, sometimes they see lights moving between them. His grandfather once found a metal door in one of the hills, but it disappeared the next day." The boat moved closer to shore. The hills seemed to watch them, keeping their secrets. Jai-Ho could feel the weight of history around them. Whatever the space travelers had left here, they had hidden it well. "We should start with the central hill," Du Yun said, checking her readings. "The energy signals are strongest there." The morning sun climbed higher as they approached the shore, ready to uncover mysteries that had waited centuries to be found. The afternoon sun was warm as Jai-Ho, Sun Ma, and Du Yun climbed the path to the top of the central hill. Their shoes crunched softly on the dry grass. The hill wasn't very tall, but the climb was steep. Around them, hundreds of other hills stretched into the distance. "The scanner readings are getting stronger," Newell said in Jai-Ho's ear. The AI displayed numbers and patterns in the air before his eyes. "There's definitely something inside this hill." When they reached the top, they could see for miles in every direction. The other hills looked exactly the same as this one, round and brown, like giant scoops of chocolate ice cream placed on the green land. "Now watch this," Du Yun said. She took out the charms they had collected and arranged them in a circle on the ground. The metal discs caught the sunlight and began to shine. Sunmid checked the time on her tablet. "The sun will set in 1 hour," she said. "The old stories say strange things happen here at sunset." Jaiho walked around the top of the hill, holding his scanner crystal. The crystal grew warmer in his hands as he moved, almost like it was trying to tell him something. Hainul recorded everything, comparing the readings to star maps and ancient records. "Look at the shadows," Sunmai said suddenly. As the sun got lower, the hills cast long shadows on the ground. But something was strange about them. The shadows seemed to make patterns, like words in a language no one used anymore. Du Yen's equipment started beeping. "The energy levels are rising," she said. "It's like the whole place is waking up." The charms on the ground began to glow brighter. They lifted slightly into the air, spinning slowly in a circle. A beam of light shot up from the middle of their circle into the sky. "Amazing," Jaiho whispered. His neural implant was picking up signals he had never seen before. Hainul was processing them as fast as possible. "The signals match old star charts found in Korea," Hainul told him. "They're the same as markings found on ancient space stations. This place is definitely connected to the early space travelers." The sun touched the horizon, and something incredible happened. Lines of light appeared between the hills, connecting them like a giant connect-the-dots picture. From above, it must have looked like a huge star map drawn on the earth. "That's the same pattern as the star map in the church," Sunmai said excitedly. "The hills are a copy of the stars." Jaiho's scanner crystal suddenly grew very hot. He almost dropped it. The crystal shot out a beam of light that met the beam from the charms. Where the lights met, a hologram appeared in the air. The hologram showed pictures of huge ships landing on Earth thousands of years ago. It showed people from space meeting with people from ancient Philippines, and it showed them building something, hiding something inside the hills. "There's a message in the hologram," Hainul said. "It's in the same language as the markings on the charms. I'm trying to translate it." The sun sank lower, and the lights grew brighter. The whole hilltop was glowing now. Under their feet, they felt a gentle vibration, like something deep inside the hill was coming to life. "The message," Hainul said. "I think I can read it now. It says, 'The gateway opens at moonrise.'" The moon rose slowly over the chocolate hills, casting a silver light on the landscape. Jaiho, Sunmai, and Du Yen watched in amazement as the ground beneath their feet began to change. The dry grass disappeared, revealing a metal surface that had been hidden for thousands of years. The hill's outer layer was just a cover, Hainul explained in Jaiho's ear. "The entire structure is artificial, disguised to look natural." The charms they had collected floated higher into the air, their light growing stronger in the moonlight. Suddenly, they moved together, forming a pattern that matched the stars above. A soft humming sound filled the air. "Stand back," Du Yen warned. The metal surface in front of them started to shift and move. A doorway appeared, opening smoothly despite its age. Cool air flowed out from the opening, carrying the scent of ancient metal and unknown technology. Jaiho's scanner crystal pulsed with bright blue light. Hainul projected a path down into the darkness, showing them where it was safe to walk. Sunmai took out her tablet, which cast a gentle light ahead of them. "The walls are made of a metal that doesn't exist on Earth," Hainul said as they walked down a sloping corridor. "It's the same material used in the oldest space stations." The corridor led them into a large round room deep inside the hill. As they entered, lights began to come on by themselves. The walls were covered with markings that looked like star maps and strange writing. In the center of the room stood a tall pillar of crystal, glowing with its own inner light. "This is incredible," Sunmai whispered. She was using her tablet to record everything. "Look at how the markings on the walls match the patterns we found in the church." Du Yen walked around the room slowly, her equipment scanning everything. "This place is some kind of library," she said. "The crystal pillar is a storage device. It probably contains information left by the space travelers." Jaiho approached the crystal pillar. His neural implant began receiving signals from it immediately. Haenul translated the data into images that appeared in the air around them. They saw scenes from Earth's past, spaceships landing in ancient times, travelers sharing knowledge with local people, and the building of places like this room. The images showed how the travelers had helped humans develop new skills while being careful not to change Earth's natural development too much. "They were teachers," Sunmai said, watching the images. "They didn't want to control Earth. They wanted to help humans learn and grow at their own pace." "But why did they hide everything?" Jaiho asked. The crystal pillar responded to his question. New images appeared, showing other beings from space who were less friendly. The first travelers had hidden their knowledge to protect it, waiting for humans to develop space travel on their own before revealing these places. "They left guardians too," Du Yin said, pointing to small floating devices that had appeared from the walls. The devices looked like silver spheres, each one glowing softly. "They've been maintaining this place all these years, waiting for the right time." The spheres moved around them peacefully, scanning them with gentle beams of light. Haenul translated their signals. "Welcome, spaceborne children. You have found your way home." A week had passed since their discovery in the Chocolate Hills. Jaiho sat in a quiet garden at the Earth Heritage Foundation's research center in Manila, watching the sunset. The guardian spheres floated nearby, their soft lights glowing in the evening air. "Your body has fully adjusted to Earth's gravity now," Haenul told him. The AI displayed his health readings, showing how much had changed since he first arrived. "You seem very comfortable here." Sunmai walked into the garden, carrying 2 cups of fresh mango juice. She handed one to Jaiho and sat down beside him. They could see Manila Bay in the distance, where modern ships moved alongside traditional fishing boats. "The Foundation team has only translated 1% of the data from the crystal pillar," she said, sipping her juice. "But what we've learned is amazing." The travelers left information about science, medicine, and history, things that could help both Earth and space colonies. Do Yan joined them, her tablet showing new translations from the ancient library. "The most interesting part," she said, "is that they left similar libraries all over Earth. The Philippines wasn't the only place they visited. There are more waiting to be found." Jaiho thought about his life in space, how he had always seen Earth as just an old world to study. Now he understood it was much more. It was a place where past and future came together in wonderful ways. "I've decided to stay," he said. Sunmai and Du Yun looked at him with surprise. "There's so much more to discover here. The space colony should know about Earth's true history." One of the guardian spheres moved closer, projecting a hologram of the night sky. It showed how the stars had looked thousands of years ago, when the first travelers came to Earth. Haenul compared it to modern star maps, showing how things had changed. "The travelers knew humanity would reach the stars again," Du Yin said, watching the hologram. "They left all this to help us understand our place in the universe. They wanted us to know we weren't alone." Sunmi's tablet beeped with a message. "More researchers are coming from the space colonies," she said. "Everyone wants to learn about what we found. But the Foundation is being careful about sharing the information. We need to use it wisely." The guardian spheres started to glow brighter as night fell. They were teaching Haenul new things every day, sharing ancient knowledge with modern technology. Jaiho's neural implant had learned to communicate with them directly now. "We're learning so much," Jaiho said, "but we're also teaching them. They want to know how humanity has grown, what we've achieved in space. It's like meeting old friends who have waited a very long time to talk." As the stars came out over Manila, Jaiho felt at peace. His simple research trip had turned into something much bigger. Earth wasn't just a tourist destination or a place to study anymore. It was a bridge between humanity's past and future, holding secrets that would help everyone, both on Earth and in space. The guardian spheres danced in the evening air, their lights matching the stars above. Somewhere in the distance, in the chocolate hills and other hidden places, more mysteries waited to be found. But for now, this moment was enough. Sitting in a quiet garden, sharing juice with friends, and knowing they were part of something wonderful.